My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 36, a single dad raising my 9-year-old daughter Lily in a small town tucked between the mountains of Montana. Winters here are harsh, unforgiving. Snow that falls so heavy it buries the fences. Winds that howl like wolves in the night. Most people hate it. Me? I've learned to live with it. You don't get to choose your battles when life's already stripped you down to the basics. After my wife Anna passed away 6 years ago, survival became second nature. Not just mine, but Lily's too. I run a modest carpentry business out of our garage. It pays the bills, barely. But what keeps me going is Lily's smile every morning, even when the heater sputters, even when she asks questions about a mom she can't really remember. That night, the storm had rolled in earlier than predicted. By evening, the roads were swallowed in white. The power flickered, then cut out completely. I had just stoked the wood stove when Lily called from the window. "Daddy, someone's outside." I frowned, pulling my jacket tighter. Nobody was supposed to be out in this weather. Not unless they had a death wish. I stepped onto the porch, the snow crunching beneath my boots, and squinted into the swirling blizzard. That's when I saw her. A woman stumbling, half collapsing into a snowdrift by the edge of the road. Her figure was barely visible under a thick, expensive-looking coat, but she was clearly in trouble. I didn't think twice. I grabbed the flashlight and trudged through the knee-deep snow until I reached her. She was unconscious, her skin pale, lips trembling. Without a word, I lifted her into my arms. She was lighter than I expected, fragile, as though the storm could have carried her away. Back inside, Lily gasped, "Is she going to be okay, Daddy?" "I don't know," I admitted, laying the woman down near the fire. "But we'll find out." I wrapped her in blankets, rubbed her frozen hands, tried to coax life back into her face. Slowly, her eyelids fluttered open, revealing the deepest shade of green eyes I'd ever seen. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice weak but smooth, carrying an accent I couldn't place. "You're safe," I said. "You passed out in the snow. You're in my home. I'm Ethan. This is my daughter, Lily." The woman's gaze drifted to Lily, and for a fleeting second her eyes softened, almost wistful. Then she closed them again, exhaustion pulling her under. I stayed awake most of the night, checking her breathing, making sure she was warm enough. Something about her unsettled me. She didn't look like someone who belonged out here in the wilderness. Everything, from her coat to the diamond glint on her wrist, spoke of a different world, a world far from mine. By dawn, the storm had settled. I brewed coffee, the bitter scent filling the kitchen, when I heard footsteps behind me. The stranger stood in the doorway, wrapped in one of my old flannel blankets. She looked less like a woman who'd almost frozen to death, and more like someone used to commanding rooms, graceful, poised, even with tangled hair. "I owe you my life," she said, her voice steadier now. "I can't explain everything, not yet. But you need to know. What happened last night can't leave this house." I blinked at her, confused. "What are you talking about? You nearly died. Why would this be a secret?" Her lips curved into a faint smile, though her eyes carried a weight I couldn't understand. Because if people knew where I was, billions of dollars would be at stake. I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. Billion. What kind of person had I just dragged out of the snow? And what had Lily and I just gotten ourselves into? The woman didn't give me her name right away. She just stood there in my kitchen, wrapped in my blanket, looking both vulnerable and untouchable at the same time. It was the kind of presence you couldn't ignore, like when lightning strikes a tree. You feel the charge in the air long after it's over. "Billions of dollars," I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ma'am, I think you hit your head out there. You need rest, not conspiracy theories." Her green eyes locked on mine, unwavering. "I don't blame you for doubting, but you'll understand soon enough." Before I could press her, Lily wandered in, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Daddy, is she staying for breakfast?" I hesitated. Normally, I wouldn't let a stranger stay under my roof longer than necessary, especially one spouting cryptic nonsense. But then again, I couldn't just throw her out into the freezing morning. "Yes, sweetheart," I said finally. "She's our guest." The woman gave Lily a soft smile that seemed to melt some of the frost between us. She sat at the table, watching me cook eggs and toast, like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. "You're a single father?" she asked. I nodded, plating the food. "Been that way a while now. Just me and Lily." Something flickered in her eyes. Pity, maybe, or understanding. But she quickly looked down, hiding it behind her calm exterior. As we ate, I tried to draw her out with small talk, but she was careful, evasive. No mention of where she came from, no explanation of why she was out in the middle of a blizzard. The only detail she offered was a name. "Clara," she said finally, after Lily asked directly. "My name is Clara." It suited her, elegant, polished. Too polished for our little town. After breakfast, I stepped outside to shovel the driveway, needing air to clear my head. The storm had left a thick, glistening blanket of snow over everything. My muscles ached with each heave, but it was a familiar ache, grounding me. That's when I noticed it. Tire tracks leading up to the road, and then nothing. No car. No footprints beyond where I found her. It didn't make sense. When I came back inside, Clara was by the fire, staring into the flames. Lily sat next to her, showing off her sketchbook, chattering about her dream of becoming an artist. Clara listened intently, asking questions, encouraging her. It was strange. This mysterious woman, who claimed her presence could shift billions, looking so natural sitting with my little girl. But the unease gnawed at me. "Clara," I said firmly once Lily ran upstairs, "you owe me the truth. What were you doing out there? Where's your car?" Her expression hardened, like a mask slipping back into place. "The less you know, the safer you'll be." "Safe from what?" I demanded. She hesitated, then leaned closer, lowering her voice. "People are looking for me. Dangerous people. If they find out I'm alive, it won't just be me at risk. It'll be anyone near me, including you and your daughter." My stomach dropped. "Alive? You mean they think you're dead?" Clara didn't answer directly, but the look in her eyes told me enough. I rubbed my temples, torn between disbelief and the instinct that told me she wasn't lying. Whoever she was, whatever she was hiding, it wasn't ordinary. Before I could press further, a sharp knock rattled the front door. Lily's voice called from upstairs. "Daddy, someone's here." I froze, every nerve on edge. Hardly anyone came out this way, especially not right after a storm. Clara's face drained of color. She gripped my arm, whispering urgently, "Don't open it, please. If you care about your daughter, don't let them in." And that was the moment I realized, whatever billion-dollar secret Clara carried, it had just arrived on my doorstep. The knock came again, louder this time, heavy enough to rattle the window panes. My pulse quickened. I glanced at Clara, who shook her head furiously, her eyes wide with fear. But I couldn't just ignore it. In a town this small, people noticed when you went silent. My nearest neighbor, Hank, sometimes checked in after storms, making sure Lily and I were okay. What if it was him? What if it was someone needing help? I motioned for Clara to stay hidden and went to the door. I cracked it open just enough to peek outside. Two men stood on the porch. Both wore long coats dusted with snow, their hair slick with frost. They didn't look like locals. Their boots were too clean, their expressions too sharp. One of them flashed a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Morning," he said smoothly. "Sorry to bother you, sir. We're looking for someone, a woman, about this tall." He held up his hand to measure. Dark hair, green eyes. Might have gotten lost in the storm last night. You seen anyone like that? Every instinct in me screamed danger. My fingers tightened on the doorframe. Behind me, I could sense Clara holding her breath. I forced a casual shake of my head. "Just me and my daughter here. Haven't seen a soul since yesterday." The man's smile lingered, but his partner's eyes scanned past me, as if trying to peer into the house. My heart thudded. "Mind if we step in and warm up for a second?" the first man asked, his tone friendly but edged with something darker. I stepped out onto the porch, pulling the door halfway shut behind me. "Wish I could help you, but power's out. We're keeping the heat in. Roads should be clearer by afternoon. You might have better luck searching then." For a moment, the air between us was taut, like a wire stretched to breaking. Then the smiling man gave a short laugh. "Fair enough. Stay warm." They turned and trudged back toward a black SUV parked down the road, its engine idling. I didn't breathe until the vehicle disappeared around the bend. When I stepped back inside, Clara was pale, gripping the blanket like a lifeline. "They found me faster than I thought," she whispered. "Who are they?" I demanded, keeping my voice low so Lily wouldn't hear. "And don't tell me it's none of my business. They just knocked on my door, Clara. That makes it my business." She hesitated, her jaw tightening. Finally, she said, "They work for people who'd rather I didn't exist. They'll do whatever it takes to find me." "That's not an answer," I snapped. "Why are they after you? Why is your being alive worth billions?" For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "Because I'm not just Clara. I'm Clara Wexford." The name meant nothing to me. My brow furrowed, waiting for the revelation to land. She gave a bitter smile. "Of course, you wouldn't know. You live here, away from all of it. But if you Googled me, you'd see my face plastered on business magazines, stock reports, Wall Street News. My family owns Wexford Global, the investment empire. We control stakes in airlines, pharmaceuticals, tech. My father built it. My brother runs it now." The name hit me like a snowball to the chest. I wasn't much for finance, but even I'd heard of Wexford Global. It was everywhere, in commercials, in airports, in articles about billion-dollar mergers. "And you?" I asked slowly. "I was supposed to inherit half," she said. "Until an accident last year. They declared me dead, a plane crash, only I survived." I stared at her, my mind racing. Billion-dollar heiress, declared dead, hunted in a snowstorm, and now, sitting in my cabin with my daughter upstairs. "Why come here?" I asked finally. "I didn't," she said. "The crash wasn't far from here. I've been hiding ever since, moving from place to place. But the storm caught me off guard. And then, you found me." Her voice cracked slightly, the first sign of raw vulnerability I'd seen from her. I rubbed my hands over my face. "Clara, you can't stay here. Not with Lily. Not if men like that are circling." Her eyes glistened, desperate but defiant. "Please, Ethan. Just a little longer. I don't have anywhere else to go, and if they find me, it won't just be about money. They'll kill me." I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her to leave, to take her billion-dollar problems far from my daughter. But then I thought of her collapsed in the snow, half dead, of Lily's smile as she showed Clara her drawings, of the men's cold, assessing eyes at my doorstep. Like it or not, I was already in this. The hours after the men left were the longest of my life. Every sound outside, the creak of a tree branch under ice, the distant hum of the SUV engine, made my nerves bristle. I kept glancing through the frosted windows, half expecting them to come back, battering the door down. Clara, on the other hand, sat quietly by the fire, her posture perfect, her eyes fixed on the flames as if she were back in some boardroom making impossible decisions. It was unsettling, how calm she looked after everything she had just confessed. Finally, when Lily was upstairs playing, I spoke. "You can't stay here long. They'll come back. Next time I might not be able to bluff them away." "I know," she said softly. "But I can't keep running either. I've been running for a year." I leaned forward, my voice sharp. "Then what's your plan? You can't just hide in strangers' houses forever." Her green eyes lifted to meet mine. "No, I need proof. Evidence of what my brother did. He orchestrated the crash, Ethan. He wanted me out of the way so he could take full control of Wexford Global." The words sent a chill deeper than the Montana winter. "Your brother tried to kill you?" She nodded. "And if he learns I survived, he'll finish what he started. But if I can expose him, if I can show the world what really happened, then he loses everything." I sat back, trying to process it. It sounded like something from a movie, not the quiet, ordinary life I'd been scraping together. But Clara's eyes, sharp, haunted, unflinching, told me she was dead serious. "And where does that leave me and Lily?" I asked, my voice hard. Her mask slipped for just a moment. She looked down, shame flickering across her face. "In danger, which is why I'll leave as soon as it's safe to move. I just need one night. Please." I should have said no. Every instinct screamed at me to protect my daughter, to lock the doors, to push this woman back into the storm where her billion-dollar world belonged. But when I looked at her, exhausted, desperate, clinging to life itself, I couldn't. "All right," I said finally. "One night. But tomorrow, we figure out how to get you out of here." Clara's lips curved into the faintest smile. Thank you, Ethan. That night, after Lily was asleep, Clara and I sat in the kitchen, whispering over mugs of bitter coffee. She told me about her childhood, lavish parties, private tutors, summer estates on islands I'd never even heard of. But her voice carried no pride, only distance, as if she were reciting someone else's life. You know what I envy most about you? She asked suddenly. I raised a brow. Me? The guy who spends half his time worrying if the heater's gonna break again? She smiled faintly. Exactly. You live real life. You raise your daughter with love. You build things with your hands. No boardroom strategy, no bodyguards, no backstabbing family. Just honest existence. I've never had that. Her words struck deeper than I wanted to admit. For years I'd felt small, invisible, a widowed carpenter raising a kid in the middle of nowhere. But here was a billionaire heiress, claiming she'd trade places with me if she could. Before I could reply, headlights swept across the window. My chest tightened. Another car. Clara froze, her hand tightening on her mug. I peeked through the curtain. It wasn't the black SUV this time. Instead, an old pickup truck pulled up, its tires crunching in the snow. Relief washed through me when I recognized the figure climbing out. Hank. Neighbor, I whispered. He checks in sometimes. But Clara didn't relax. What if they got to him? I shook my head. Hank's as steady as they come. Just don't say anything. Let me handle it. I opened the door to find Hank stomping snow from his boots, his gray beard flecked with ice. Blizzard got you good, huh, Ethan? Power's out on my side, too. You holding up? Yeah, I said carefully. We're fine. Got the wood stove going. Hank peered past me, his eyes narrowing. You've got company? My heart skipped. I glanced back. Clara had stepped just far enough into the hallway for her silhouette to show. I swallowed hard. Yeah, friend. Hank's gaze lingered a moment too long, his brows furrowing. Well, just be careful, neighbor. Storm like this brings out more than cold. Sometimes it brings trouble. With that, he tipped his hat and trudged back to his truck. I closed the door, leaning against it as relief and dread tangled in my chest. Clara's voice came quietly behind me. Ethan, I think trouble's already here. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window with the shotgun I kept for coyotes, watching the road while Clara dozed lightly by the fire. Lily slept upstairs, blissfully unaware of the storm that had nothing to do with snow. By morning, the world outside looked deceptively calm. The sun reflected blindingly off fresh snow, the silence so deep it almost mocked the chaos brewing in my chest. Clara stirred, stretching the stiffness from her body. You stayed up all night? I shrugged. Didn't have much choice. You said those men would be back. Her expression softened. I never meant to drag you into this. But she had, and whether she meant to or not, my life, and Lily's, was now tangled in $1 billion secret that was bigger than both of us. Over breakfast, Lily asked Clara if she'd stay another day. Clara smiled but didn't answer. The silence that followed told me everything. She couldn't. Once Lily went outside to play in the yard, I finally said what had been burning on my tongue. We need a plan, Clara. You can't keep hiding in random houses. What's your endgame? Her eyes met mine, unwavering. There's a man in Chicago, an old ally of my father's. He can get me documents, proof of what my brother did. But I have to get to him without being seen. If I do, everything changes. Chicago? I scoffed. That's over 1,000 miles from here, and you've got hired thugs on your trail. I don't need to make it alone, she said softly. I need help. It was the way she said it, the way her gaze lingered on me, that made my stomach tighten. Clara, I've got Lily. My responsibility is to her, not to some billionaire feud. Her eyes glistened, but her voice stayed steady. I understand. I just thought you might be different. The words cut deeper than I expected. I turned away, clenching my fists. She was right, of course. I wasn't her savior, I was a father. That was the beginning and end of it. But then, as if fate itself wanted to test me, the sound of an engine broke the silence. Lily's laughter outside stopped. I rushed to the window. The black SUV was back, creeping down the road like a predator scenting prey. 2 men climbed out, the same ones from before, and this time, they weren't smiling. "Inside," I hissed, dragging Clara away from the window. I darted for the door, flung it open. "Lily," I shouted, "get in here now." She came running, cheeks red from the cold, confusion in her eyes. I scooped her up and slammed the door just as the knock came, hard, demanding. This wasn't the kind of knock you could ignore. I set Lily down, whispering, "Upstairs. Hide under your bed. Don't come out until I say." Her eyes widened, but she obeyed without a word. My brave little girl. I turned to Clara. She was pale, trembling, but her chin lifted with defiance. "They won't stop, Ethan," she whispered. "Not until I'm gone." Another pounding knock. Then a voice, deep, sharp. "Mr. Cole, we know she's in there. Open the door. You don't want your daughter to see what happens if you don't." My blood ran cold. I raised the shotgun, my hand steady despite the storm inside me. Clara's eyes widened at the sight of it. "Ethan," she whispered, "you can't fight them. They're trained, armed. You'll die." "Maybe," I said quietly. "But if I hand you over, they'll kill you. And if I let them in, they might hurt Lily. That's not happening." The pounding grew louder. I glanced at Clara, this woman who had fallen into my life out of nowhere, who carried secrets worth billions, who might very well cost me everything. "Clara," I said, my voice low, "you have to decide. Do I open this door and hand you over? Or do we fight?" She stared at me, her green eyes fierce despite the fear. And for the first time since she'd arrived, she whispered, "We fight." The pounding on the door shook the whole cabin. Dust sprinkled down from the rafters. Clara stood just behind me, her hands clenched in the blanket as if she could hold her fear inside it. "Mr. Cole!" the man outside bellowed. "You've got 10 seconds before we make this ugly." 10 seconds. My heart slammed in my chest. Lily was upstairs, hiding under her bed like I told her. I could almost hear her tiny breaths in the silence between the knocks. Clara whispered, "You don't have to do this. They want me, not you." I shook my head, never taking my eyes off the door. "If they get inside, it won't matter. They'll leave no witnesses." Her face crumpled for a second. Fear, regret, and something else I couldn't name. But then she straightened, her jaw firm. "Then we don't let them inside." I motioned for her to move toward the kitchen. "Back door. If things go bad, you run. Head for the tree line. Don't look back." Her green eyes locked on mine. "And you?" "I'll buy you time." Before she could argue, the door shuttered under a hard kick. My shotgun felt heavy, solid in my hands. I'd used it on deer, on coyotes threatening the chickens, but never on men. The window beside the door shattered with a crack, snow and glass spraying across the floor. A hand in a black glove reached in, fumbling for the lock. Instinct took over. I swung the barrel and fired. The blast roared through the cabin, the hand vanished, replaced by a howl of pain and a curse. "Cole," the second man snarled, "you just made a mistake." Another shot rang out, this time theirs. The bullet tore through the door, splinters flying. Clara ducked low, crawling toward the back of the house. I shouted up the stairs, "Stay down, Lily, don't move!" More gunfire ripped through the wood, echoing like thunder in the small space. I backed away from the door, reloading as fast as I could. My hands shook, but years of woodworking steadied me. I knew tools, and this was just another tool. Through the chaos, Clara appeared at my side, clutching something small and metallic. I blinked. It was a pistol. "Where the hell?" "I've been running a year," she said fiercely. "You think I didn't prepare?" She crouched by the window, eyes sharp, breathing steady. In that moment, she didn't look like a helpless billionaire heiress. She looked like a soldier. Together we waited, listening. The SUV engine still idled outside, exhaust steaming into the cold. Footsteps crunched in the snow, circling. "They're flanking," I muttered. "Then we flank them first," she answered, sliding the pistol into her palm like she'd done it 100 times. I gave her a look, half disbelief, half admiration, then nodded. "Back door. On my signal." I tossed a heavy chair against the front window. The crash echoed, masking our movements. Clara slipped out the back with me right behind, snow biting at our boots. The cold was brutal, the kind that tore the breath straight from your lungs. We ducked behind the woodpile as one of the men rounded the cabin. His breath steamed, gun raised, scanning. Clara mouthed, "Now." I nodded. She rose smoothly, firing once. The crack split the morning air. The man dropped to his knees, gun clattering in the snow. Not dead, but out of the fight. Her hands trembled afterward, but she swallowed it down. I almost forgot to breathe. "That wasn't your first shot," I whispered. Her jaw tightened. "It won't be my last if I want to live." The other man shouted, panicked, "Cole, don't be stupid. You've got a kid in there. Hand her over." Hand her over. Like Clara was some package, something. My grip on the shotgun hardened. I shouted back, "She's not going anywhere." Silence followed, heavy and dangerous. Then the crack of boots crunching fast through snow. The fight wasn't over. Clara leaned closer, her voice raw. "Ethan, if we survive this, I promise I'll make sure your daughter is safe, no matter what it costs me." And before I could answer, the last man came out of the storm, gun raised, fury blazing in his eyes. The man burst through the swirling snow, gun leveled at my chest. His partner lay groaning near the cabin, but this one looked colder, harder, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Move aside, Cole," he growled. "You've got no stake in this. Give us the woman and we walk away. You keep your kid, your quiet little life, simple." My pulse thundered. The shotgun pressed steady against my shoulder. Clara stood just behind me, pistol clutched in her trembling hand. I thought of Lily upstairs, hiding under her bed, waiting for her father to make good on his promise. I thought of Anna, my late wife, how she'd made me swear I'd always protect our girl. And I knew. This wasn't about Clara's billions. This was about keeping the one thing in my life worth more than all of it, so I shook my head. "Not happening." The man sneered. "Then you'll die for nothing." He raised his gun. Time slowed. Snowflakes hung suspended in the air. I squeezed the trigger first. The blast echoed through the valley, rolling like thunder across the frozen hills. The man staggered back, his weapon slipping from his grasp before he collapsed into the snow. For a moment, the only sound was my ragged breathing, the shotgun's barrel smoking in the cold. Clara exhaled sharply, lowering her pistol. You just saved both our lives." I didn't answer. My knees felt weak, the weight of what I'd done crashing down on me. I wasn't a soldier, I was just a father who built cabinets and fixed fences. But today, I'd fought for something bigger. Inside, Lily's small footsteps pounded down the stairs. "Daddy! What happened?" I caught her before she saw too much, pulling her close, my heart breaking at the fear in her voice. "It's over, sweetheart. We're safe." Clara stood by the doorway, watching us with eyes that glistened. She pressed a hand to her chest, as though holding in something fragile. Within the hour, the sheriff arrived, called in by Hank, my neighbor, who'd heard the gunfire. Questions were asked, bodies taken away, reports scribbled down. But Clara? She gave no last name, no explanation, just a quiet thank you to the deputies who didn't push too hard. Small towns kept secrets after all. That night, after Lily was tucked into bed, Clara stood by the window, staring at the moonlit snow. Her voice was soft when she spoke. "I can't stay, Ethan, not now. My brother will send more men. I have to finish this. I have to end it." The words tightened in my chest. I wanted to argue, to beg her to stay. But I knew she was right. The world she came from wasn't one I could shield her from forever. Still, before she left, she turned to me. "You gave me something I haven't had in years. Safety. A home. Even if just for a night. I'll never forget that. And if I survive this, if I win," she hesitated, her eyes shining, "I'll come back." I swallowed hard, forcing a nod. "Then you'd better survive." She stepped closer, her hand brushing mine. A touch that said everything words couldn't. Then she slipped into the night, disappearing into the snow like a ghost, carrying the weight of $1 billion war. Weeks passed. Life returned to something like normal. Lily sketched at the kitchen table. I worked in the garage, and the winter thawed slowly into spring. But some nights, when the wind rattled the windows, I'd glance at the empty chair by the fire and wonder if I'd ever see Clara again. One morning, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name written in a neat, elegant hand. Inside was a single line. It's over. I kept my promise. Your daughter is safe. And so are you. C. Folded with it was a small photograph of Lily and me, taken secretly while we'd played in the snow outside the cabin. On the back was scrawled, "A reminder of what I'm fighting for." I sat there for a long time, holding the picture, feeling both the ache of her absence and the strange warmth of hope. Clara Wexford had walked into my life in a storm, carrying danger, secrets, and blood on her heels. But she'd also left me with something priceless. Proof that even in the harshest winter, sometimes the snow carries not just cold and fear, but also the spark of a future you never imagined. And maybe, just maybe, that storm wasn't the end. It was the beginning.